We were asking such questions like about the babies, and some of the EVPs we caught were like, bring the baby over.
Which would make total sense because supposedly, don't quote me, but they brought Jenny's dead body, her sister, the baby, and 2 soldiers between the walls.
Yeah, they knocked out the brick. They knocked out a hole in the brick separating the 2 houses. And I think at that point, Jenny was still alive. I think she died in the basement.
I don't know, but
I believe she
it
did
right.
too.
Well, the thing of it is, it's almost like a sinking ship, though. Who are you going to let go, survive first? Women and children, supposedly. So to say bring the baby over, to me, would make perfect sense.
And just so our listeners understand, for people who don't understand the history of the Jenny Wade house, Jenny Wade was the only civilian in Gettysburg that was killed during the battle. Her family was hiding in the basement, and she came up in the morning to try to make some breakfast, and a stray bullet from a sharpshooter that they presumed to be from the Farnsworth house struck and killed her. Actually, it wounded her, and I think they dragged her downstairs, and she died. But she's the only civilian casualty in that battle.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were saying that she is only one of 2 females that have an American flag flying over her grave 24 hours a day, and the other female is Betsy Ross.
Yeah.
In the whole country.
Yeah.
Wow, and you could still see the bullet hole through the door.
Oh, yeah.
It went through the door and hit Jenny.
Doors.
Oh,
and, I don't know, Carrie, if you remember, too, but we also had I wasn't in that room. You and Mark were in that room, but it kind of sounded like a ball moved or a lamp moved.
It was the pee pot under
Yeah,
the bed.
that's what I heard, yeah.
Well, they said that was happening on the 2nd floor, but we were all sitting still, and it clanged, and it sounded just like a ball moving.
It was the ball because I walked over. At one point, I walked over to check my camcorder, and there's a spot in the floor where when you step on it, that bowl rattles. And that was the exact same sound that we heard, but the only difference was nobody was moving a finger.
No, we all were sitting huddled all together so we could listen to the EVPs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just sounded like a...
And we also heard the cabinet door open and close. It sounded like the cabinet door.
You're right.
Yeah.
And it was like a definite sound. I have pictures of that, too, I need to send you, but there's nothing paranormal in them. But, yeah, and that was one of the stories told to us by the tour guide in the beginning. He said, the door will open. We have people in there. The one door opens easily, the other one doesn't. No doors were open. We had a person sitting right there, but we heard the sound of the door open.
Oh, crystal clear.
And I totally get that, though, because we're in our house. And the one thing that happens here all the time, you hear doors open and close. They don't actually open and close, but you hear the sound of that. You can hear the knob. You can hear everything. So I don't know how they do that or why or residual or not, but, I know for a fact it happens. It happens to us all the time.
Yeah, we really, when you think about it, everything happens so fast at conferences. You're always being pulled in a million different directions. But, since, we've been home for, a week or whatever it's been, not even, I think.
3 days.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a full week to me.
It's like now that you have a little chance to look back, that 2nd floor on the Jenny Wade house was really, really active. Considering the amount of people that were in that little house. I mean, there was like easily 20 of us separated on different floors.
Yeah, we always had 4 or 5 people with us.
It was really active.
Yeah, Debbie, I'm sorry.
No, I think, too, though, not only was it active, but, you're in a tiny little house, in a tiny little floor, with people beneath you, and then you have people in the cellar. So, of course, wherever you go, I don't care where it is, you have the chance of contamination. But, everybody was being so good, and we knew the floor squeaked. It was one of the squeakiest floors I've ever been to. But everybody was so cool and so tight. And then you could start really hearing. I mean, we have EVP that said, what did they say? We want more people.
But that was a direct response to Mark's question. Mark's like, how do you feel about having all these people come in and out of here? And
that leads me to believe, it's something we've gone at more than one time, and it's almost like if they're draining your batteries, we are EMF. We're living, but we're EMF. They're EMF. They are draining us, and we are their energy. And the later in the night it got, I think the more stuff we started to get. I'm a firm believer between 1 and 3 in the morning is when you get your best stuff. I think we stopped it too. But to have everything against you, the squeaky floors, the amount of people, it was very light. We had light coming in from the outside. We had no blinds. We couldn't close it off. But with all these things against you, to get so much stuff, I think is remarkable. And, I think that place was totally live, and we had a great crowd.
I think Mark also asked something about baking in the kitchen or something, and it said something like, "We like having the women."
Oh yeah, or we need the women or something.
Yeah,
well, don't we all? But I mean,
Yeah.
But
I do remember that now that you mentioned it. We got a lot of good stuff.
yeah,
That's creepy. I wonder if they need feminine energy or something.
No, I just think they just needed you to clean the house and stuff like that.
Oh boy.
well, especially if you're dealing with soldiers who may be in the area, they're out campaigning and they don't get to see very many women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the soldiers, I recall another really great EVP was, he's the one we killed. Do you recall that one?
Oh, I do remember that.
You remember a lot of them.
Yeah, I do remember that. And we were asking about, I think we were talking about a soldier.
You were asking about the soldiers, the soldiers, because there was 2 soldiers in the picture downstairs. Remember, we were talking about the picture, and they were posted, and you were talking about them.
Yeah.
But,
it was a really good night. Really, really good night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine what it would be like in the pitch dark. I mean, later in the night. If it was that good, that early, and that bright, I can imagine what it could be.
Yeah.
And
then we got the one. I think what it is that I don't know what the blue laws or whatever, but there's only like certain places where you could buy like liquor, and we were talking about wine or something like that.
Somebody said, does anybody know what's open now? Because, I would like to buy wine, or I guess there's a blue law in Pennsylvania. And you're kind of right on the borderline of Baltimore. So, you cross the line and you can get your booze. And do you remember what they said?
I think I know. I think I was asking something about, hey, do you guys know where the closest place is where we could get some wine or some liquor? And we got an EVP, and it said, we don't drink.
No, I don't drink.
Okay, we.
I have.
I mean, and it was pretty clear.
It was very clear. I mean, they were very. It was definitely not residual because.
Oh no!
Remember, we had the gentleman. He was sitting in the corner, and he had the IR camera, and he wanted to do a demonstration. He lifted his hand up into the air, and he said, "How many fingers am I holding?" And the voice that came back was, "What's in your other hand?" Remember?
Oh, check the other hand. Or something.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's funny.
We haven't even loaded this yet. We've just been out for like 3 days, so.
Yeah,
wow.
You're right.
But
so you remember? Yeah, you remember more of them than we do.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's a perfect example. Do something symbolic and see if they see it,
See, for me, as a paranormal investigator, EVP is without a doubt one of the most impressive pieces of evidence that we can get, because whenever you get a photograph or a video, there's always a measure of doubt that you're getting a reflection or dust or whatever. But when you catch a recording that intelligently responds to a question, I mean, there's just no other explanation for it. You're not picking up radio waves. Mm-hmm. Or, somebody down the street, these examples that you've mentioned so far tonight clearly indicate an intelligent response.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And, to take it a step further than that, now we're getting responses to questions before we even ask the question. I mean, that lends itself to me to be, which I always believed, at least on the most part, they're telepathic. So they're at a higher vibration. We're at this dense body. They've already caught the question before we even formulate it. They're already answering it before we ask it. But we've gotten such really, we were in our bedroom. What did we get? The one was counting. Do you remember?
Debbie asked, I think you asked.
And how
You
many are
asked
here?
who's.
Well, they say counting.
Wait.
And then you hear me say how many are here.
Right. Debbie asks, who is here with me? And they say counting. And then Debbie says, how many of you are here with me? So they answered her second question even before she asked it.
Right, but I'm seeing such a spike in this, you know, and it's like anything else. We no longer record at home, but, you know, when you keep that portal open and you record all the time, the chances of that happening are, I would say, maybe, for us, maybe 70, 80% that we'll get them to respond before we ask.
You know, I see you guys on the shows, and they just show the bits and pieces, but working with you in person was amazing, and when you guys play that back, there's just so many voices going on in the background. I was just in awe because I could listen to my recorder and there's dead silence and all you hear is myself.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing, too, is, you know, a lot of it you don't want to jade either because a lot of it is low Cs. That's mostly what you get. It's kind of like, you know, that famous picture of the lady brushing her hair in the mirror and you see a lady in the mirror, or you can look at it and see a skull.
Exactly.
But I think the thing of it is, you know it's EVP because you do hear that one word. Then, you know, we adjust our sound levels and stuff until almost to where it's easiest for them. All right, what are they coming in clear at? All right, let's adjust and make them as comfortable as we can. But, I mean, I think near the end of the night, what I love is to get tangible voices because I'm not out there to, you know, put out static or jade anybody or anything like that.
No, these were clear. People were hearing them across the room, the ones that you guys were getting.
Well, sometimes it's clearer across the room because it's like the sound travels thing. And sometimes I even have to hold the recorder away from my ear. But once you hear it, not to jade anybody, but, you know, there is a tangible voice that goes with it. And if for every group we could do that one time, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know?
I did want to ask about the levels because, you know, I do EVPs, but you guys kept adjusting the levels and you were going 2 and 4 and 3 and 5. What exactly is that? Is that the recording volume level or your listening level?
No, what it is it's the sensitivity levels.
And it depends, whatever recording you're working with, too. You got to see what gadgets that one has on it. But I try to play with everything until, at whatever scale, say it has a scale of 1 to 10. I'll start at 1. I like him to start at 10. And we'll kind of just keep playing with it until, all right, that was good. All right, you keep your 1 on that one. And now what was that? Say that was 4. Okay, I'll move this to 3 this time. You stay at 4. I'll move to, 5 this time. You stay at 4. And then we just try to get a thing to where we're actually hearing a tangible voice.
Yeah, and see, when we do that, we use voice activation because of the volume of recordings we do. You know, if we didn't use voice activation,
there's not enough hours in the day.
Right, there would be no way that we could even come close to keeping up. Not that we do now, but at least kind of, you see the light at the end of the tunnel. We know, okay, we've got to do, we got to put Gettysburg in, and then we have to, finish
just coming
off.
back from an event, we have 6 hours alone, not to even count.
Right.
Know,
So when we kind of mess with the sensitivity levels, what I'm looking for on my recorder is I want the sensitivity level high enough to where it's basically just teetering on the brink of just recording all the time. In my mind, it makes it that much easier for them to kick on the voice activation and come through. I don't want my sensitivity level set at 1. I want it set at about 4 most of the time.
See, this is where we differ, too. I like to play with it, so.
That's what she said.
Well, that's our Goodwin statement. Don't do that.
I did ask you, Mark, and I was curious to, I don't think we ever got to finish it because the other group came in. When I had asked you, it's just so odd that you and Debbie don't get the same recordings on the same recorders. And I wanted, what was your theory on why you would get it and why Debbie's would not?
Well, I mean, that's the basic theory behind EVP and how EVP comes about, and that's that they are working with the internal noise of the recorder, and they transform that internal noise, or of course you can use external noise. When we first started recording, we used to hold our recorders up to our ceiling fan. I'm standing under it right now.
Or I would drain the bathtub, and just the sound of the water going down would give them enough to shoot out a word or sentence.
Right, but that's the theory behind EVP is they need they need some kind of audio energy to transfer